That's the wrong screen. There we go. Hello everybody, how you doing? I'm Paps, a racing VTuber and artist, and today we are going to be trying out a slightly different method for art. So, the other day I booted up CSP as I normally do. Yeah, no BGM during the live stream for this one either, because well, first of all, I don't even have the BGM tracks loaded, but also because this time we'll be going in and out of a lot of YouTube videos, and it's going to be really annoying and very difficult for me to track whether the BGM is on or not. So apologies that you'll just have to deal with my dulcet tones and soothing vocal rhythms. But anyway, CSP, right? One of the things that CSP can do is that if you go to filter and down to render, you can do something called Perlin noise. And you can do this at varying scales. Like, this is like very small scale, but you can also make it wider. It looks like some kind of crummy PS2 fog effect that would be in the skybox for Silent Hill or something, right? But this intrigued me because I didn't really know what Perlin noise was. So yeah, you can mess around with the amplitude of it. You can mess with something called the attenuation, which seems to be like the granularity of the fuzz, the repetition of it, which is like, okay, you have the fuzz, now the fuzz has fuzz. Offset X, I don't know what... Is that literally just moving it around? Hang on. So if I do... Yeah, it's just moving it up and down. But yeah, that is the essence of the Perlin noise in CSP. But that got me thinking. You know, recently we have had a lot of issues with different websites trying to scrape data and trying to capture artworks posted online to their own nefarious ends. They're not all of the ends are necessarily nefarious, but the process itself is something of a nefarious thing. You know, it's like how I wouldn't call it a complicated matter, but it is like... It's definitely a problem for artists, which I think is like the main thing for me. So what I have checked out is I was wondering if it would be possible to use that Perlin noise that CSP has as a method for disrupting AI scraping. I don't think so. I don't think that is possible. However, that did lead me down some research rabbit holes. And... hang on, where is my web browser source? Aha. That led me to finding out that you can make art with Perlin noise. Specifically, I found it first through this blog post here from a blog called SigHack, which is a pretty cool name, honestly. And they were showing off... I don't know why you would be coding on a MacBook. This is very clearly a MacBook interface. I'm not one given to preconceptions about coding. I have no idea how coding works, but a MacBook seems like an interesting choice. But yeah, it's a pretty long explanation. But as you can see, eventually that you can form hairs out of it. You can create different flows out of it. This one in particular is the one that inspired me to look more into this. It's very psychedelic looking. But my goal would be to try and create something similar to something of this kind of messy pattern, and also use the colors of the image to hopefully be able to create it like an AI disturbance filter. Not to mention, it does seem just useful as well for all kinds of things. Apparently, they tried to copy this one from The Lion King. Shout out Mufasa 2 now in the... I don't think it's Mufasa 2, actually. I think it's just The Lion King Mufasa, now in theaters, which I know through exactly one thing about it, which is that it has a song that's like, something something brother. And it has a very strange method of pronouncing brother. But this does seem just useful to have as some kind of background texture, or even for texture brushes. I feel like it could create a lot of interesting effects. Like this one, for example. Like, imagine some kind of creepy world that had this in the background. That'd be pretty sick, right? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things that you could do with this. And what was a big relief for me is that it's not AI art whatsoever. Like that was my thing, is that I was worried that this was in some way involved with AI art. No, you literally load up this website here, P5.js, or P5js.org is the name of the website. So what this is that it's basically a JavaScript program running tool that you can launch on web. And it describes itself as a friendly tool for learning to code and make art. It is a free and open source JavaScript library built by an inclusive, nurturing community. It welcomes artists, designers, beginners, educators, and anyone else. It gave me the vibe of that Scratch program that I saw some kids use. I never ended up going to a class that required me to use Scratch, but I have seen some people do some pretty fascinating stuff with it. And so that leads us to today's goal, which is to learn how to make something similar to this, but on our terms. And to that end, I have loaded a couple of YouTube tutorials for that purpose. Yeah, I also pulled up the Wikipedia page for Perlin noise, hoping that that might help with that, but I think mainly we'll be relying on this tutorial here, because this one seems to be the most of what we want. And the person here, this was made by Steve's Makerspace, but it did... Yeah, another reason why I was worried about it being related to AI art was because it's also called generative art, but apparently, like, there's a difference between generative AI and generative art, which was... I feel like that's flirting with danger. I'm gonna abandon shit the moment this stinks of AI, but so far it seems to just be normal coding shit. But yeah, there's also this other one here for other different patterns, which is also intriguing to me, but let's just jump into this one real quick. Oh yeah, let me turn on the desktop audio, make sure that that's not too loud or nothing.
Hi everybody, Steve from Steve.
But yeah, this is, for example, like some of the stuff that I'm hoping to make. I'm hoping that I can make something like this and overlay it onto the finalized art.
Makerspace, and today we're in P5js, and what you're seeing are some things that I've created using Perlin noise. I don't know if I would call this art, but it's pretty interesting. And if you're interested in creating generative art, understanding Perlin noise is essential to that. I'll be going through code starting with some simple examples and gradually getting more complicated. And I'll also be talking a little bit about how to change the colors.
Okie
So
dokie.
it all starts with a simple Perlin noise field.
Pause. That's... Holy shit. Wait. Okay, go on.
I can hit start on this and get a new Perlin noise field. With this, I'm going through the width and the height in a for loop, and then I'm getting some noise.
Coding is pretty scary, huh? I remember I had a friend of... I have somebody on V server, Briar, I believe, who seemed to know a bit about coding. Also seemed to know quite a bit about math. And I got so scared when the idea of, like... I don't remember what it was, but some of the concepts floated were pretty scary. Anyway, I'm not used to code, so this looks like gibberish to me, but I'm willing to learn more.
And the noise is going to be between 0 and 1.
Okay.
I am using the I and the J, and I'm multiplying by a resolution. The resolution I've got here, if I make this a smaller resolution, it will be more smoothly changing.
That's odd. I imagine that if you made the wait. I was gonna say, I was wondering if you made the resolution smaller. To me, that would have made sense to, like, make it sharper, because you were scaling it down. But I guess it also makes sense because you see less of the... if you think about it, a lower resolution means that you have a smaller screen size, right?
If I make it a higher resolution, it will change more quickly.
Mm-hmm,
so I get that noise number between 0 and 1, and then I'm going to map that number from 0 and 1 to 0 and 100.
Okay.
Because I am using color mode HSB, and I want my brightness to be between 0 and 100.
Okay.
I've got a little bit of alpha in here that's at 40, and then I'm drawing some rectangles. They're little bitty rectangles. You can also use points to fill in your Perlin noise if you want. Rectangles, for some reason, take less time to make than points do. I don't know why.
That's very comforting to hear as well. You know, I feel like a coding either makes you like an extremely logical, this is how this should work kind of person, or it basically makes you a wizard sorcerer kind of motherfucker who will be like, yeah, no, this does this, and I don't know why, but it's consistent at least.
But that's the way it is. Now in this example, I've
Ooh.
added some specific color mapping. I've taken the noise and multiplied it by 10.
Okay.
And then I'm checking to see if the N is less than 2, then I'm giving it 1 hue. If it's between 4 and 6, I give it another one. I just pick these numbers at random.
Okay, that makes sense actually, because if you're assigning it between... Okay, so that I and J thing makes it so that it has a random value. And so if the value is less than 2, it gets that color. But if it's between 2 and 4, it gets the other color and then the other color. Okay. Yeah. It's almost like a tax bracket.
And that's what's happening here. So I can hit start and we'll get another field, but it's using the same hue numbers. Now we'll get a little bit more complicated.
Oh boy.
Instead of mapping those numbers that I just came up with, we're going to use a color palette table. And so I've got this color palette table here, and this
What the fuck is that?
is full of palettes. This row right here is one color palette. It's got an R and a G and a B of one color, and then an R, a G, and a B of a second color until you get to the RGB of a fifth color. And there are 676 different color palettes. I'm sorry about my camera. I don't know why it's doing that. So I have to
I don't know anything, brother. I don't... Go on?
Table in preload. I call it a table, and then I'm going to pick from that colored palette table a palette. I'm going to call that my palette, and then I've got my R1, G1, B1. I'm getting from that table whatever palette I chose. The N is for the floor of the noise. So in this case, I'm taking my noise value and multiplying it times 5 and then flooring that. So this...
I'm really lost. Why did he say that he's multiplying it by 5 if it's 4.9? I mean, I guess that's meaningfully the same as 5, but...
This is going to give me a number, either 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So now I'm going to get my R, G, and B from whatever color I picked from the table based on the noise, and I'm going to fill based on that RGB. So here's that. So it's looking a little bit better.
It looks a little bit like coffee, or like a giraffe with some... with tiny spots of mold on. Most giraffes aren't like plants, I believe.
We'll hit go again, and we get a different color palette. So this is pretty good.
I like this color palette. This one seems nice.
But I would like to get more detail in here and have the colors to be repeated. So how do we do that? We're going to take a little diversion to this example.
Yowza.
I have imported this image of this rainbow of the hues from 0 to 360.
Okay.
And what's happening here is I'm getting a color from here, and I'm mapping this color onto one of the colors from the color palette table. So colors from red to yellow are going to become this light green. I can also map based on Perl and noise. So imagine that this black to white is Perl and noise. I can say, okay, anything that's going to be really black is going to map to this light green, and anything that is white is going to be mapping to this. And this might be representing 0 in the spectrum of Perl and noise. This is representing like 0.8 to 1.
I feel like I don't understand part of it. So you can either map specific colors to always become a second color, or you can map the brightness of the color to a specific color. I was under the impression that the second one, where you mapped brightness to a color, was always how it was done.
But here, see this shift factor number? I've got it at 1 right now. If I change this to 2, then you're going to see that the color palette is mapped twice. Once here and once here. And so this green color could be coming from this, or it could be coming from this area over here, or this area over here.
Huh.
And if I change this to 3, you'll see the color palette is shown 3 different times. So the way I'm accomplishing this is I come up with this SF number, which is 360 divided by the shift factor. So I've got the hue.
Okay, wait, I understand that. So I think I understand that. So, okay, so if it's 360 divided by 3, that explains why the color patterns repeat 3 times at the top there, right? Because you have it goes green, yellow, orange, red, and that kind of indigo color. Or aquamarine? Cyan? I'm gonna say teal. I wanna a fun stream idea might be to like buy one of those huge books of colors and just go through that on handcam. Just doing like a color rating on the home goods buyers color catalog. But yeah, from that light green to that teal, we see that happening 1, 2, and 3 times, and that makes sense because that shift factor is 3. And SF is 360 divided by that shift factor. Okay, yep.
360.
I'm following so far.
The shift factor. So I've got the hue and the SF number, and I divide one into the other, and then I get the decimals from that division.
Okay, and what do you do with the decimals?
It's a decimal between 0.001 and 0.999. Now I can use that decimal to map. Same way I was mapping before, there's 5 different mappings, but this way I can reuse the colors from the color palette table. So, back to the Perlin noise.
I really like that color palette. I know, I don't know, there's just something really cool about like deep reds, black, and white, and then also maybe a third color in there. What I really like about or I guess it'll be the 4th color. What I really like about this 4th color in particular is that it's almost kind of like bluish if you squint. So it provides a nice contrast with that red, even though it's probably just a sort of gray. Also, this can you see my cursor? Yeah, this section right here looks a little bit like the Eraserhead baby, which I think is pretty funny. This might also be a good way to, similar to how we did that stream where we made random characters out of the shapes that we saw. This might also be useful for that, although we would have to make the scale very, very small indeed.
Shapes. I've got the shift factor in here, and I've got it at random.
Okay.
I'm mapping my noise to a number between 0 and 360, and then I'm getting my decimals. Then based on those decimals, I'm getting my RGB from the color palette table. I'm doing stroke RGB, and I'm drawing point. I decided to do points instead of rectangles this time. I've added a couple other features to this version. I've got it so that I can click on the canvas to get a new image, and also I've got this Save JPEG button, so if I click on this, I will get a JPEG of my image. So we're getting a little bit more complicated now. Let's keep going. Now here, I've kicked it up a notch. So what I'm doing differently here.
The thing is, right, I like this one here is interesting, and it is an evolution of it, but I like this one a lot. And I think it especially is useful for the kind of purposes that I'm hoping to use it for, which is disrupting AI art. I feel like this one, like this series, is the one that's going to be the most helpful. But we can always play around with it a little bit more, right?
And a little bit more complicated now. Let's keep going. Now here, I've kicked it up a notch. So,
although if we're going by pure complexity, I might be focusing too much on the aesthetics of it. If we're going by pure complexity, something like this, where it's very smooth, very painterly, might actually be better at tripping up the AI things.
What I'm doing differently here is I've created an array. We have a random palette and
That looks so cool, though. I don't know. It looks very cellular. Does that make sense? Like, this feels like something you'd see under a microscope.
a random shift factor, and we have the factor, which is going to be 10,000, and that gets calculated for each number of palettes. So in this case, I've got 3 palettes, so it's going to put 9 numbers into the array. We go through our I's and J's, and we go through our K's again so that we can pull stuff out of the array. Here we're calculating the different noise values. Then we're figuring out the decimals from the shift factor. That's going to give us the color number that we're going to get from the color table. We're going to get those RGB values. We're going to add those RGB values up until we're finished going through the K's. And then I get an average RG and B, and I draw my points for that average RGB. Now this works pretty well for having between 1 and 4 color palettes.
Okay.
Another thing I added, and I'm not sure if it really makes a difference or not, is I added a second Perlin noise so that one Perlin noise would have a low resolution and the other Perlin noise would have a higher resolution. And then I'm adding those 2 Perlin noises together and getting an average. I'm not sure if that actually makes a difference or not, but that's what I did, and I've got up here the
I wonder to what extent that would make a difference, because at the end of the day, it's still added together, right? I don't know. It feels like it would probably just be a very small difference due to the fact that between making it with it and making it without it. Because if you could just get similar results in the end. Maybe that's why it's difficult to tell the difference.
option.
Well, he does wear glasses. It might just be that it's like not easy to look deep enough into it to tell.
To have a simple pattern, which would be only using one Perlin noise, or a more complicated pattern that would use 2 Perlin noises. So simple pattern equals false, and now we get something like this, which I don't know if that's more complicated really.
I mean,
than
it
what we
looks
just
less
were
complicated, yeah.
Oh yeah, but there was one other thing I wanted to show you.
Uh-huh.
You see here where I have the word trippy, the factor is figuring a new Perlin noise, and this is why I'm putting the factor into the array, just in case you want to use this. If I take this out, we're figuring a new Perlin array field every time we do the palette. So instead of one Perlin array field, we're going to have 3 different fields, and it comes out like this. Very
Sheesh.
trippy stuff. It looks like, I don't know, a swimming pool. I don't prefer it.
No, hang on a minute. What do you mean it looks like a swimming... What kind of swimming pools have you been going to?
So I'm going to keep it commented out, but I'll...
That's still interesting, though. I do like that that's an option. Again, I feel like that is a good method for what we're trying to do, but at the same time, it's a little bit difficult. I'm not sure what exactly makes the most effective countermeasure at this point. From what I've seen, there are filters you can add to it that do help disrupt it. But at the same time, it's like, how can we balance those filters with the actual aesthetics of it?
Leave it in case you want to use it. Now, if I increase the number of palettes, it is going to take longer to generate, unfortunately. Okay. But there's also a bit of a problem. So we'll increase that to 6 from 3. So here we go. We got something that's more complicated. There's more colors, definitely. But it's also more muted, kind of getting to be a bit gray. And this is because I'm using the average. When you're getting an average of several RGBs, you tend to start getting some grays. And if you're averaging hues, you tend to lose the reds at the end and start to get cyan in the middle. If you use alpha to layer the colors, you tend to get the last color that you put down, 50% of that. In my last video, I talked about the problems with combining colors and 2 ways that I came up with for combining colors that result in vibrant colors with a lot of variety. A link to that is in the video description.
Thank you.
Let's now look at my final product, which includes a fix. I'm using 6 color palettes to generate this image. I do everything I did before, coming up with an average R, G, and B. So this right here is a formula for remapping the average red. So the larger the number of palettes you're using, the larger the number of R's you're averaging.
Right, okay, I'm with you so far. From what okay, so, yep, that makes sense so far.
Then the narrower the range of that average is expected.
No, that does make sense, because if you think about it, that also happens a lot when you use large data sets, right? If you have a really wide variety of data sets, if you average it out, it eventually kind of all starts being the same.
So I'm taking the expected narrow range for that average R and expanding it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the best way I can explain it.
Good sir, nothing you've said for the last 11 cents makes a lot of sense to me, but I do admire your work.
I do that for the R's and do that for the G's and the B's, and then I finally draw the RGB point. So the final result is going to be less gray, even though I'm using 6 color palettes. Now I've got one more thing to show you. This is not an improvement, but it's a variation. This is a final rendering that looks fuzzy. So instead of just using points, I'm using begin shape, end shape, and a vertex.
You're bringing pi into this? That seems pretty messy.
And here I'm showing a larger example. So every time I hit go, it's making a circle, but the
that looks nothing like a circle, I fear.
Radius is varying as it goes around the circle.
Oh, that's okay. That's why it looks like that.
And then I take away the stroke, and I'm using the color fill. And I'm also not drawing.
Okay, and that's what the stroke does. So each of the kind of larger islands on this pattern is similar to that shape that he showed us just now, and the stroke is what causes these kind of waves that kind of go off of that island.
Very many of these, so this actually takes a lot less time to render. Now I got the idea of this fuzziness, this watercolor sort of thing, from this guy, Algorithmic Art. So I'll leave a link to his video in the description. So anyway, I think this is an interesting variation. It kind of looks like a textile.
A little bit. I could see that, especially at a distance, but I'm still sticking with my thing of like it looks like cells.
So I'm going to wrap it up here. The code for this is in the video description, and I'll have a few of those examples that I was showing you in the video description as well. If you like this video, you can give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Comments are always welcome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.
Cheers. All right. So let's take a look in here. Color replace example, rough circle example. Perlin noise simple color map. Perlin noise art code. That sounds like the one we want. Okay. Wow, essentials, and I think we just press this button up here, right? Huh. Well, that's easy enough. If we save that as a JPEG, what's its kind of native resolution? 320 kilobytes, and how big, like how large is the file? What is the largeness of, well, no, we know how big it is in terms of like kilobytes, but what's its resolution? Let's pop that into CSP. Okay, we got 600 by 600. Honestly, that's not too bad. I do wish... There might be a method to make it higher resolution. Ideally, I'd want to be working with something that's like 2000 by 2000. Especially... I mean, it'll also depend on whether or not I can mirror the pattern. I wonder if it's possible to make it so that we can do that. If not, we'll just need to make a big a pattern as possible. Let's see. Size RAGABA. Array brackets factor 0. Function preload. Oh, create canvas 600 by 600. Okay, I know what to do here. 2000 by 2000. All right. Let her rip, potato chip. And it does seem like it'll probably take much longer to load. I haven't put up the web browser back up. Yeah, over here in function setup, there's a thing that says let canvas equal create canvas 2000 by 2000. That's the one that I just edited. Thankfully, I'm a little bit familiar with messing around with like this Java. This page is slowing down Firefox. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, no, there we go. That's a big boy. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. Let's save that JPEG and okay, geez, that is 4 of God's own megabytes. And that is 2000 by 2000. If we go back to CSP, we can see that that is indeed a really big picture. Okay, interesting. Let's go in and experiment on that with something that we've made already, like the Ina murder mystery one. Right? Oh yeah, I did want to eventually rework it so that the shading is a lot stronger. I often think to myself that I want to be strong enough with my shading that I can always use cell shading no matter the situation. And unfortunately, I do think the thing about that is that sometimes it's just too simple, but I want to try and do it anyway. I want to be able to do a similar style to, like, say, what you would see on, like, a TV anime production or something. Like, on that level, but very simple. Okay, let's see. My canvas over here. Grab this. Paste it over. As you can see, it's... Hang on. It's really not big enough. Like the picture that we're working with is already fairly big, but we need to make it bigger. Putting it in the middle feels like the best choice. Yeah, no, this definitely does feel like something that would poison AI. Like, look at that. It reminds me a little bit of an oil spill. If we do this at, like, even like 3%, like, let's do 3% opacity on this layer. If you really squint, you can see it. Hang on, what if we... Okay, bump it up to 5. It's still very difficult to see. I like, if you were just looking at this randomly, you would not be able to see that. Only if you zoomed in a lot, it feels like. But then if you merge visible to new layer and increase the contrast... and the brightness, I suppose. It does become a little bit more... Her nose is totally gone. It does become a little bit easier to see in some places, but also not much. I guess it's a little bit of a delicate balance, huh? Let's keep playing around with that a little bit. So if we do, say, color dodge or overlay even, I feel like overlay would probably be more powerful. Although we would need to bring it back down to maybe 3%. Again, very difficult to notice unless you're like super zoomed in. Like at this distance, even at... No, at 5% it's definitely visible, but at 3% it's barely visible. You could, if you export this and upload it online, that could very easily be seen as... That is easily within like the margins of... artifacting. Okay, increase contrast and brightness. It's hard to say. It does definitely show up. All right. I wanted to try another thing with this, which was that instead of using just the basic colors like this, we could use the color matching powers to help it out a little bit. So maybe we can use gradient or gradient mapping. This one feels like a good fit for the artwork. This one's very funky looking. I actually quite like it like this. Okay, here we go. I don't know. That still shows up quite a bit. If we bump it down to like 3%. At 3%, it's very difficult to see for what I should hope are obvious reasons. 4% is also pretty good. I think 5% is like the very maximum before it starts to become noticeable, which is a bit of a shame because otherwise, like, let's do again that trick of merge visible to new layer and investigate a little bit whether it can create the pattern if we up the contrast and brightness. It really doesn't show up, does it? I mean, it shows up a little bit, but not much. I don't know. I feel like I feel like we've taken a step backwards almost. I feel like overlay is still a pretty powerful contender in that regard. Because again, it kind of blends in fairly well. I don't know, my eyes are kind of tired from... Well, I say my eyes. I've used my vision a lot today. So it's hard to say whether I'm cooking or not sometimes. Maybe if we try it with a different color palette. So what about instead of the kind of purples from there, what if we did... what if we went warmer, for example? What if we went closer to reds? This looks like a kind of gross meat puddle, if I'm being honest. I will say it is very compelling when we get through these color blending modes, how it can affect some of the background and the foreground. Like in this one, for example, the hat is barely affected, but, well, I guess it is one of those darker color ones, huh? What about overlay? Does that do anything? Still very, very visible at 5% on... At 5% overlay. Maybe 4%? How does that treat our sniff test? If we go to brightness and contrast, there's probably an easier way to kind of detect the extent to which the filters can poison an image, but I'm not particularly aware of one. It's very difficult to participate in this because I don't have the prior skill set required for it. My expertise absolutely does not lie in coding, and it feels a lot like this discipline in particular is one that is kind of divorced from the ordinary extent of coding. It's hard to say. Still very useful. I will say that it is somewhat concerning that I'm realizing now that some of these lines are not from the AI confusion pattern, but actually just from the blending modes that I've used to put together the shading. That's pretty funny, actually. Hmm. Let's load up the website again. Hang on. Okay, save button draw, stroke weight random, let alpha, stroke weight random. Let's do one of those, used to vary parallel noise. Okay. Trippy when commented in. Here we go. Let's try to generate one of those trippy ones. At the scale. I don't know, I feel like with enough playing around with the filters, right, like invert, gradient map and everything, you can pretty much make it fit anywhere. The only issue is that we need something that can go into the picture itself and do that without sacrificing the image quality. And I've seen the glaze and nightshade sites before, right, how they have different levels of interacting with the works, like especially for nightshade, I believe. It has a very visible effect if you increase the level of it after a while. I'm actually kind of a fan of this one. I like it. I don't know, it feels very tie-dye. Let's try another one though. Let's re-roll the gotcha. What are the other links here? Fuzzy version, Perlin noise, simple color map, color replace example, rough circle example. Okay. Phew, let me tell you, my sleepy ass should be in bed right about now. I had meant to take a nap after work today, but I forgot that I had streamed today. I've been streaming on Sundays for such a long time that it's been. Ooh, wow. Yeah, I don't think I'm a particular fan of the trippy effect, sadly. I am still, however, going to save this one just because it does seem to be useful, but okay, let's do. Is that a backslash or a front slash? That's 2 slashes like that. There we go. Okay, and if we refresh it here, that should eventually generate another need one. I am a little bit dissatisfied with it though, because it does feel a lot like I am just kind of riding on somebody else's coattails, and that isn't my favorite feeling of the world. I don't know. I'm a big fan of DIY, but I would never be able to figure out. Well, I probably could eventually, but it would be very difficult. I could eventually figure out how to make something like this, but it would take so much training and so many different things that I'm unaware of. I'll have to borrow the efforts of Steve's Makerspace for the time being. But yeah, ideally, I'd want the finished pattern to be something that I could apply to many different pieces. And again, a lot of that is going to be depend on my own capability to use gradient maps and everything. I don't know to what extent I really like the color palette on this one, honestly. I don't know to what extent making the palette more fuzzy would also have an effect on its ability. It's very interesting how there's like a core of darker parts here in the middle. Hang on. Web browser, there we go. Okay. Color burn, linear burn. Rug burn. Soft light and overlay seem to be the big winners in terms of ones that are not particularly intrusive. So let's go with that. I think the thing as well is that it also conflicts with my style in particular, because I really prefer to have like very neat lines, very neat color. So because of that, the kind of chaotic nature of the pattern is much more evident. Again, though, if you're just scrolling this, right, I'm going to hold up the picture to myself and resize it so that it's like in the size of my phone in my hand. If I were just like scrolling on the internet and then I just like double tap to zoom in on it, I think that's when I would start to notice the patterns, especially up here. It looks a tiny bit moldy. It does. It looks a little moldy. All right. What else do you have? Because I did see making simple patterns in P5js. Sorry if that was kind of loud. The intro music for this guy is like fed through a megaphone. All right.
Hi, this is Steve from Steve's Makerspace. We are in P5js. This video is about making patterns. We can use all sorts of different shapes to make patterns. We can vary it with color. We can vary the rotation of things. We can use general randomness, or we can use Perlin noise randomness, which is a type of smooth randomness. This video is
smooth
for
randomness,
beginners, though I'm assuming some sort of general knowledge of P5js.
You should not assume that.
But if you are a beginner, just a warning, I'm going to be throwing a lot of ideas your way. I hope that's a good thing. Maybe you'll catch...
I really like this last one that they went through. I don't know, something about it, it's very net-like, which I appreciate.
90% of what I throw at you. So let's get started. All the patterns I'm going to show you are going to be on a grid system. You might place objects on the intersections of the grid, or you might place objects in the center of these grids, or you might do both. But we won't have these lines. We'll comment those out, Control \\.
Control \\, okay.
So here's this very simple pattern. To make a grid like this, we have two for loops, one for the width and one for the height. So we start at position...
Okay, and these lines here are called loops.
Position 0, 0 at the top left of the canvas, and we go the width of the canvas. Instead of adding 1 each time we go through the loop, I'm adding a certain amount. So here I made a variable called space, and I'm going 50 each time I make a dot. So I can increase this to 100, and you'll see that the dots get farther apart.
Okay, and if we go back real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That makes sense because the canvas is 500 by 500.
We can increase this to 100, and you'll see that the dots get farther apart. We can make a pattern like this. This is just lines that are either going this way or this way randomly. So here I've got a random variable between 0 and 2, and if it's less than 1, then I'm going to draw a line, and this is going to be a diagonal line from top left to bottom right. So let me just comment out this second line here, and you'll see that it's drawing all the lines that way. And if I comment this out and then comment this in, you'll see that this is drawing all the lines that way.
That's so weird.
Now I also have some lines down here that are going this way and this way. Right now my randomness is going from 0 to 2, so these lines aren't showing. But if I change this to between 2 and 4, then I get lines like this. So it's ignoring these lines and only doing these lines. Or I could do 0 to 4, and now I get something like this, which is...
I really like this one. I don't know. It's very natural looking. A lot of these, they feel like...
Or then I get lines
I guess it's because of the geometry of these ones in particular.
So it's ignoring these lines.
It feels very historical looking.
Or I could do 0 to 4, and now I get something like this, which is pretty interesting. And of course, every time I hit play, I'm getting a different randomness. Now that was using regular randomness, but this one is using Perlin noise randomness. And you'll notice that it's less chaotic. You'll see long stretches of this diagonal line rather than a whole bunch of variation. This part where I'm doing the lines is the same, The for loops are the same. It's just the randomness that's changing. So here I'm using the I and the J like I was before, but I'm multiplying by this resolution number. The resolution is here at the top, and this is basically saying how quickly I want the Perlin noise to change. So if I change this to 0.2, it's going to change more quickly, and you'll see it gets closer to just complete randomness. It's going
Does it?
noise to change. So if I
don't.
change this to 0.2, it's going to
Okay, so that was from
noise to
0.02
change.
to
So if I
0.2.
change this to 0.2, it's going to change more
Okay, and
quickly.
that
You
is very
see it.
similar to what we observed in the other one, in the regards that it almost became like more zoomed in. Like it wasn't much of a difference. Maybe it's easier to see from the. Hang on. No, it does. It looks more crowded, and that makes sense actually because he lowered the resolution. Wait, no, what?
If I change this to 0.2, it's going to change more quickly, and you see it gets closer to just complete randomness. Whereas if I put this to 0.002, I almost get all straight lines. So they're not always going to go this.
Hang on. I don't know why this is cracking me up. Why are you? Okay.
This way. If I hit play again, there we go. I get something else. So
This feels like that one SpongeBob bit where it's like, hey, Patrick, do you know what's funnier than 23? 24. I don't know why. This is just hysterical to me, just seeing these straight lines.
put that back to that. Maybe if I do 0.01, and that looks pretty interesting. Another thing we could do, which
Yeah, I'm a big fan of 0.01.
is the size and the space don't necessarily need to be the same. So if I made the space 50 and the size 30, you'd get something like this, which maybe you think is a little weird, but it's something you could do. We could also make the space a lot smaller than the size.
What does that do?
And that's kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
That looks a little bit like a dragon. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a dragon's fire pattern. Hang on. It's like a fractal pattern that you can see sometimes. Hang on. Dragon fractal. A dragon curve. That's what it's called. Hang on. There you go. And it's made by doing this over and over. I'm very interested in fractals, mostly in how they are drawn. I would presume they use a program very similar to this. Yeah, but this is called the Highway Dragon. Or it might be called Highway Dragon. Or the Jurassic Park Dragon. Still, that's nuts. Alright.
Fun playing with this stuff and getting things you don't expect. Here's another type of pattern. In this one, I'm using some ASCII characters.
What the fuck?
That I found. So I found this at this website. I'll link
Verbo.
to that in the video description. So I copied these ASCII codes right here. So I'm varying the type of shape. There's 4 different shapes. And then for the color, I've got an array of colors up at the top called COL. And then I'm filling with one of those 5 colors from the array.
It's very interesting. It almost reminds me of like a quilt.
I like this one because it looks like some sort of quilt.
Don't do that.
Like it's a fabric of some kind. You can also use other ASCII characters like these to make a pattern like this. Here's another pattern maker. This one makes triangles. It's either going to make triangles like this, or it's going to make triangles like this. And this is dependent on Perlin noise to make the triangles. I've got 2 different noise fields here, noise 1 and noise 2. To get a second noise field, you would add some large number to the second noise field. So I'm adding it to the I times resolution and to the J times resolution. So I've got 4 different triangles that are being drawn here. Let me comment out the ones at the bottom. And so you see that these triangles here and here.
Me when I'm really bad at Tetris.
Here are the ones that are like this. And both of these triangles, the colors and the shape of the triangle are using the first noise field. And then I'll comment out the first set of triangles, and leave the last set of triangles. And you'll see that the second noise field is controlling these triangles, the shape and the color of them. For the color, you'll notice these are all monochrome. I'm using HSB mode, hue,
How do you mean monochrome?
saturation, brightness. I've got full saturation, brightness, and alpha, but the hue is what's changing. So it's a color wheel of 360. I'm using 100 of that 360 for each color palette. So first I get a starting color value using random 260. And so that's going to get me a starting color that is either from 0 and it goes up to 100, or it starts at 260 and goes to 360, or anywhere in between. So I take my noise value, which is a number between 0 and 1, multiply it by 100, that gives me my range, and then add it to the color start number. Now here's a more advanced version of using triangles. I'm not going to go through everything here, but this is using a color table. I've given the triangles some alpha. I've made the triangles different sizes.
I'm guessing alpha means how it will behave when it overlaps with other shapes in the pattern. Okay.
So there's a lot more going
Ooh, I like that one.
on here. You can see it still can produce something similar to that last example, but then it can also do stuff like this. So while I'm not going to go over all the code for this, I will leave a link to this in the description, along with all the other examples I've
I'm a big fan of this triangle one. I don't know why. Something about its angularness appeals to me.
gone over. Here's another pattern maker. This one is making triangles. Now, if we change the spacing of this, let's say we change it to 50, we get these crosses. If I change it to 30, you get something that looks like this. So that's kind of fun. For the next,
I need to play around with that one a lot, because I feel like if we can incorporate that into a pattern in CSV, we will be invincible.
next one, I'm going to show you something that uses a curved vertex to make basically a flower petal. So the curved vertex takes a number of points and makes a curve out of it. So I've got a slider here so you can see
What the fuck?
these points around, like so, the curve changes. Here you can see one of those petals, and I'm rotating that petal 90 degrees so that I get basically a full flower.
No way.
But if
What?
I rotate those 45 degrees instead of 90, then you can see I get even more points. And
Oh my God, that's cool.
Here, the first slider is for spacing, so I'm increasing the spacing here.
Oh.
The second slider is for internal spacing. As I draw each
What's that
petal,
do?
how far apart are they from each other? And so I can increase that. And then this is the girth of the petals. So I can
Girth is a weird word to use.
make them thicker. So this is fun to play with. I can do like this, and I get all sorts of interesting shapes. Play with this a little bit more. So for the slider, I'm creating a slider, and I'm giving it a very
That's also very interesting to me, that in the regards that the program isn't just used to generate these pictures, but you can almost make like a generator out of them. You can use the sliders to adjust them.
variable. It's the space slider is the first one. And then down here, I'm taking the space slider value, calling that space, and that is what is being added when I'm going through the X's and the Y's.
I really do want to try and use this one in particular to make monochrome patterns in CSP, because I can see a little bit, right? You can see right here at the edge that just a tiny bit of it is peeking out. And if we were able to adjust that so that it's a perfect square and it can repeat, then we would be set for life. That's one of the most frustrating things to me artistically, is making a repeatable pattern, a tiling pattern. That is just that really whoops my ass for some reason. I have no idea why it does.
Now for the sliders to work, you need to be getting...
Probably because it requires like a lot of careful planning. There are some tools that make it easier, right? If we go back to CSP real quick, you can see that there's this whole section right over here that's about alignment. That one is extremely useful for that kind of thing, because you can align elements in a picture with the canvas, with themselves, a lot of different things. but it's not perfect, and it's still a lot of work for what I feel is very little output.
The value in the draw function, but I didn't want to be redrawing this canvas constantly in the draw function because it does take a lot of processing power to do this. So I put the drawing of this into a separate function draw shapes, and I'm only going to this function if the slider value changes in any of the three sliders. So that's what this if statement is doing. I have to translate to the XY position. And in order to translate and then rotate, I first have to use this push function. Now that is going to change what I'm using in the curve vertex because I'm not going to be using XY. And the reason for that is that once I've translated to this XY position, now where I've translated to is 0.00. So the only thing I'm using in the curve vertex is the internal space variable and the size variable. So when I start my curve vertex, I do begin shape. When I end my curve vertex, I do end shape. And then I have to pop. And pop is basically untranslating. It's saying we're going to go back to where we were before.
Why would you do that?
Also resets the rotation. Then I've got this one. This is using rectangles. The rectangles can be different sizes.
This one's very much more like a rock geode.
The rectangles are also being randomly rotated 45 degrees or 90 degrees. If you do use 45 degrees or 90 degrees, that means you first need to change the angle mode to degrees. This one is not using any Perlin noise.
Huh. That is odd. I do wonder to what extent you would need to untranslate. Well, no. Like, if you're not using degrees, then what would be the alternative?
I'm just using randomness. The colors are RGB, and I've got it doing mostly blue colors here, but a little bit of random red and green in there. Here's another one. This one is making colored rectangles.
Big fan of this.
Rectangles are varying in size based on randomness. So they can be size 1, 2, 3, or 4 wide or high. Now if I were to change this to say 10 and maybe 2, now you get something like this, which I think is interesting. Or we can reverse that, say make this one 10 and this one 2.
And that should be vertical, right?
Really nice. Now for the colors, what I'm doing is I've got a starting R, a starting G, and a starting B, random 165. And when it comes to the fill color, I'm doing random between that starting number and that starting number plus 90. So if my starting number is 165, then the R is going to be between 165 and 255.
I see. And that's why the colors in the final picture seem to be so close together, is because you just have it within 90 degrees of that change. I see. Okay.
If my starting...
I'm beginning to understand the parameters, which is a good step forward. I still have no idea how I would make something like this from scratch, but understanding the parameters at least means I can play around with it.
Value was 0.
And that's kind of what we're here for today for. You know, we might actually go back to this one in a little bit. Definitely making the canvas size much smaller, I feel. Because then I feel like that's much better for just messing around, is to just have the 200 by 200 canvas. You know, if we run that, you see that took like all of 2 seconds. As opposed to like the 20 plus that it might take for the normal one. It makes me nervous using ones that are like too big unless I'm absolutely certain of it.
And it's going to give me an R between 0 and 90. So this is yet another way of getting a monochrome color palette. Now I also have in here the ability to rotate the rectangles. So if I do this, we get something like this. Which I think is interesting. Let's make
I'm not a fan of this one. I don't like it very much. It's too...
So it doesn't look a lot different.
Okay, you've brought me back around.
Let's put it back to 45. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then this one. I think this is the last one I want to show you. This is straight up Perlin noise, right? You've probably seen this before. We're going through the I's and J's and using some noise. And then we're making small rectangles. The rectangles are size 3 and they're spaced apart by 3. But see what happens if I increase the spacing and the size. So I'll make this 14 space and 7 size, and you get this.
That's so weird.
Now, if we were to take the
That's so
red,
weird
put
though.
that
Like it's almost like a halftone, but it's not.
to 0, so the Perlin noise is only affecting the
What the?
green and the blue, you get.
Oh, okay. That's why it's doing that. I was gonna be like, how does that affect? How does setting it to 0 affect anything?
Something like this.
Wait, what if
So
we
that's
use
gonna
them
do it
all
for this
0?
episode. I hope you got something out of it and weren't completely lost. But you can look through all the examples that I've left in the video description. If you like this video, you can give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Comments are always welcome. I love to read your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
I've seen enough. All right. Okay. So let's take a look in here. Flower petals and curve. Simple squares pattern. All right, let's take a look at that. This is... Would this be the Perlin noise one? No, okay. This is good though. We need this because we want to... Okay, let space equal 50. Okay, what if we made it 25? Oh, whoa. Do you ever get that feeling when you look at a pattern that is too close together where it's kind of like tripping you around a little bit? Hang on. I switched my desk to standing mode while the guy on the screen was talking for a little while back. If we were to export this, actually, we can combine these technologies because I do know that there should be a way to... Okay, so from this one, function, save art, save... Okay, here we go. Can we just, like, copy this and plonk it at the bottom here? Oh, syntax error, expected expression got da-da-da. Syntax error due to a symbol that it wasn't expected at its place. Do we just remove that and are we cool? Okay. Oh, hang on. Function save art. Huh. Hang on. Control F, JPG. Okay, here we go. Function setup, let canvas equal, let save button equal create button, save JPEG. No loop. I wonder if that's going to do anything. Hang on. Yes. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. Okay. Okay, so we set space to 25. How about 250? That would make it, yeah, very far apart. Is that... Okay, if we save this as a JPEG, pop that open in CSP. Oh, right, JPEG. Hang on. Function, save art, save button, save JPEG. Can we just make it like mycanvas.png? Is it literally that easy? No, okay, that still exports as a JPEG, which is not what we want, because if we do that, it'll just save us as like a black screen. Okay, create canvas, fill, stroke weight, create button, save JPEG, save PNG. Hang on, save art. Inspect, nope. Save button, mouse press, save art, save PNG, create button, save mycanvas.png. Hang on, is there like a helper function or something for this? I wonder if it's just unable to save in PNG. If not, if that is the case, then would it be possible to like fill in the background somehow? Hang on. Or hang on, sketch, help, keyboard shortcuts, reference. Here we go. 2D primitives, 3D models. Hot damn. This can do a lot. All right, 3D primitives, attributes, curves, vertex, geometry, color, shading. Hang on, structures, foundation. Foundation, class, console, hang on. PNG, save object, save style, save canvas as an image, save frame, save GIF, saves image to a file, saves a given element, save JSON, save string, save table, Save canvas as an image. Copy, blend. Could we use save art, save PNG? Is that a valid command? Save art is not the. Oh shoot! Hang on. Save PNG. Does that do anything? Hot damn it! Saved as a PNG. And is it like? Hang on. Moment of truth. If we pop this into CSP, does that? Are we cool? Yes. Okay. Okay, hang on. We might need to sharpen this sucker. Hang on. Tonal correction. Or I mean, Yeah, no, I'm going to go convert brightness to opacity. Nope. Tonal correction. Binarization. That's how you gotta have it. Hang on. Still not quite getting rid of that lack of resolution. Can we? Okay, here's an idea. Monochrome. There we go. Convert layer. Copy paste. Color. No. If we just select everything here, and then we invert selection, and just have that clean pixel look to it. If we convert this to a image layer, image material layer, we should be able to play around with it using the operation tool. I really don't like that that's becoming so blurry. Okay, it's because we're at 72 dpi and it's 500 by 500. That's probably why. But if we use tiling, that does seem pretty clean, honestly. That looks clean enough to me. Okay, good to know, because now we have a tool for making all kinds of different little patterns. Or, well, mostly monochrome patterns, but it's a start, right? Not to mention, now we know how to make it so that it saves as a PNG. That, I think, is worth more than anything. That being said... Okay, let's do create canvas 1000 by 1000. And this time we're going to make it so that it is space equals 750. Let's say 750. What'll that do? It looks very similar, but also very different. Okay. Let's bump that up to 1400. Wait, no, we want to go smaller on the spacing, don't we? What about 300? Actually, what about the Miku number? What if we go 39? Okay, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Like I said, I really like this because it helps to... Like, now that we have... just having this tool to create patterns like this, especially being able to save them as PNGs, that was a big game changer, because saving it as JPEGs, we would have to figure out how to create a white background to all of this, and I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. Is there like... Hang on. Image mode. Is there like a fill tool? Sets color used to fill shapes. No fill disables color filling for shapes. There is no fill tool. I don't know the language that I would need to communicate my desires to this thing. Fill tool works because we're working on like a layers program. This is not a layers program. This is just drawing everything pixel by pixel. Very hardcore. Okay. For X, Y, S, blah, 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 space. Okay. What about 10? Mm-hmm. 100? Okay, much better. What about... And I do think the other thing to bear in mind is that if we do this plus, let's say, 90 plus 90. No, that did the exact same thing. Unless we didn't go drastic enough. What if we do 200 by 200? Those squares are definitely getting bigger. Okay, 25. That's what I'm talking about. We go back to CSP real quick. The issue is that even if I converted these into... Hang on. So, even if I converted these into image layers, I fear that if I try to zoom in and zoom out on them... Hang on, file object. Can I not just increase... Hang on. Image resolution. Can we not just increase it to 600 dpi? Aye, that works. That's an 8,000 by 8,000 canvas, by the by. Those are not numbers that you would normally... That would normally make you chuckle. That is a substantial canvas. Let's see. Layer selection, convert layer. Convert layer, image layer. Yes. I can see this being useful if you don't own Aseprite for some reason. You should really own Aseprite. It's like $4 on sale. I know the Steam sale ended yesterday, but come on. Okay, let's see. Let's register this material as pixel halftone. Okay. And I guess now we'd go back to the web browser. Okay, I'm more or less done playing with this one. What have you got in terms of the other one? So the flower petals curve, that one was also one that really piqued my interest. Okay, so launch this sucker. Uh-huh. Okay. I have got to be careful with this one. That being said, I am interested if for this one it'll also be effective in terms of whether we can just immediately do a super clean pattern off of it. Because it looks like we could. If we add our old buddy save PNG. We go up function, create canvas, angle mode, degrees, fill 0. Nope. Yes. There we go. Oh, and that's neat. Resetting it also resets the pattern. Okay, cool. Background 255. Oh, but that's for the draw shapes function. All right. Create canvas, window width -20, window height -90. Okay. If we save this as a PNG, what does that look like over at 926 by 729 pixels? Okay. Hmm. I really wish there was a way to improve the resolution of it. Still, -90 to -20, huh? Does that mean if we did... Hang on. Window width, window height. Create canvas. Ah, it's based off of... Okay, I see. So it's based off of the actual width and height of the window in the browser. Ahora entiendo. Or wait, maybe I don't. How's it like window width -20, -90? Hmm. The sliders are broken now. That seems bad. Hello? Uh-oh. Hang on. Maybe... Oh, hang on. Maybe we need to put this towards the end. Are we cool yet? We are not. What if we removed no loop? Ah, there we go. Now we're back in business. Beautiful. God, this is just so mesmerizing and pretty to look at, though. I really like it. Hmm. There was one specific method that he used that I really liked. But yeah, these are really good, though. I really like them as patterns. Even if we can't necessarily bring them over one-to-one, as long as we have a basic idea of what they should look like, we can just perfectly position a symmetry tool ruler in the middle of a canvas and then use that as a reference. Yeah, that could work, actually. The only problem is the only way to... The main thing that you would do in this kind of situation is that you would just stockpile, right? If I don't have a specific goal in mind for a pattern that I want... This is very funny. This one's kind of funny, actually. They just look like hairy circles. Wait, hang on. We are very close. Okay. We need to make this one maximum. We need to make this one... Maximum, question mark? I like this one. You know what? Whenever I see one that I like, I'm just gonna save it. New grind set. That being said, window width -20 and window height -90. If we just made these -50, -50, would that produce a square? I think a square would be optimal for this kind of situation. Hang on, save PNG. It does not produce a square, in fact. Okay, that's interesting. That's probably because the window width and the window height is different as well, right? If we said window width... Yeah, it's wider than it is tall, so maybe window width -60? Would that create a square, a more square shape? Oh, that is very difficult to tell. No, it is looking more squarish. Okay. Would we not just be able to do like 500 by 500? I don't understand why we need to overcomplicate things like this. Just 500 by 500. Call it a day. Yeah, there you go. Slider's still working everything. Why did we not do this from the start? Okie dokie. Wait, hang on. Almost had it. Almost had it. I saw it for a second. Somewhere around. Oh, I really like this one though. This one's also really good. Although it is a little strange that you can see on the outside there that like the. Hang on, can we? I wish there was a way to more closely fine tune the sliders. Is that to have a steady wrist, which I do not have, sadly. Is it messing with the way that they can repeat? No, it's not actually. Or is it? Very difficult to tell from this distance. No, that's definitely doing something. Okay. Huh. Yeah, no, that's doing something to the borders of it. How's the pattern recognition going? My Rorschach tests are looking like are looking like some kind of exam given to one of those monkeys that they have on a typewriting trying to make Hamlet happen. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I am slowly kind of understanding the sorts of circles. I feel like this must be how scientists in like one of those settings where there were like super advanced technological precursors must feel. Like I'm trying to control things as easily as I can. Hang on, wait a minute. Function draw shapes background 255 4x equals -50 width equals +50. Right now I'm trying to figure out why it's making a border out of the pattern when I fix a pattern. If that makes sense. But the thing is, like, could I not just, hang on, if I download this, right, if I download this pattern, and I open that sucker up in CSP, right, how much would I really need to just, hang on, would I not just be able to grab a thingy like this, right? Hand is not steady. Okay, would I not just be able to grab this, go into a new, like, let's say, 1500 by 1500 image, right? Expand this significantly. And I will be working with a mouse for this one, so hang on. I didn't think I would need my drawing tablet today, so I didn't bring it with me at the beginning of the stream. Hang on. If we just kind of reach over and special ruler, parallel line, nope. Symmetrical ruler, here we go. This looks like it's symmetrical in 8 ways, so let's work with that. So let's do 8. Perfect. And then we just need to center the ruler here. Okay. Center, center. Perfect. All right, so now we are going to raw dog this sucker. We are going to use just our mouse to... Nope, not quite. Try again. Try again. Yes? Question mark? Okay, and then that's gonna go like this. I feel I feel like that one video of that one dude who's like sweating and cursing and just kind of crashing out while he's like going really fast on the computer. It's usually contrasted with another video of what I'm pretty sure is the same guy just like singing and laughing carefreely while working on something different. Okay, and if we fill these inside with just pure black, And instead of having that ugly round part in the middle, we can just make it a smooth, ordinary circle. Or, I mean, a more effective way of doing this actually would be to create a actual circle shape on top of a layer here. Put it in, and just put that in the middle of everything. Okay, and if we merge visible to a new layer, right? Forget all this other crap. Erase the gray on the inside here. Just select this. Maybe go... Hang on. How should we do this, actually? Okay, we can make a rectangle. A quadrilateral of sorts. And then just put that in the center again. Maybe a little bit smaller. And then just make it so that it clings to, make it clip to this layer. Yes, okay. Merge visible layers. Okay. Crop it so that it's only this. This is a lot of effort to go through for what is basically just trying to skimp out on whatever the hell people are selling this week on the Clip Studio Asset Store. This does very much feel like it's some kind of insane 500 IQ play. Okay, convert layer, convert it to an image material layer, operation, tiling, on. Is that? Yes, okay. Okay, it's not perfect, but it mostly works. And mostly works means that nobody will notice. The passing of the torch as you become the acid guy. God. It's like the artist equivalent of like the Field of Dreams. I'm very much annoyed by the tiny little pinhole that's coming through on the non-central ones, but you know what? All things considered, this is pretty good. I can live with this. I'm gonna drink some water. I've been talking nonstop for like 20 minutes. Normally, I'd say that's light work for a guy like me. But I ate a very dry sandwich just before stream, and that's been slowly depleting my moisture like some kind of mummification tool. That would be a really funny way to mummify someone. Hey, eat this Cracker Barrel sandwich before you die. Trust. Don't ask why we have bandages with us. Don't worry about that. God. And this is what the pattern was supposed to look like, by the way. We did not get close at all. Wait, I saw it again. Yes, 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 this is the one. This is the one. I need to save this one. There was this one pattern that the guy whose YouTube video I used this fellow here, Steve's Makerspace. He's the one who made this whole slider thing, this whole slider generator. And so I have been using that to fulfill my pattern creating perversions. This is also a nice pattern. It's like a nice kind of textile pattern. I don't know. I'm just doing whatever and downloading whichever right about now. The Funk Soul Brother. Okay, I might just need this for a new wallpaper pattern. I could see that being very useful for that. It's very cool since you can set up since you can exactly create it to be like, you know, 1080 by 1920, or you know, bigger than that if you want to be a touch greedy with the resolution. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of how delicious this looks to my brain. That sounded weird. But yeah, we have a couple more to play with in here. Flower petals. Spelling petals with a D is interesting. Is that your main way to spell it? Ever since I found out through Bloodstained Ritual of the Night that you can spell sketch with a C and it's fine, I've been very wary about my assumptions regarding how you can spell things. This is the other one that I wanted to play around with. Actually, no, the one I wanted to play around with was not the Pearl and Noise, not the diamond, maybe the diamond pattern? Synchronized cycling. Oh, this one's weird. Fabric looking pattern using ASCII text. Oh, I remember that one too. Advanced version of color triangles. Hang on. Pearl and Noise color triangles? Is this the one? Yes, this is the one. It kind of hurts to look at a little bit. I wonder if it's possible to like add a color wheel to some of these. I have like 5 of these suckers open. I need to lock in. Okay, so if I just do it like this, okay, they're always going to be kind of in a similar tone. What if I just started being start R, start at plus 90. What if I just remove the start R plus 90? Is that just going to give me truly random colors? Or is it just going to break the program? No, it's like that one nightmarish level in NES Tetris that Summoning Assault talks about. Okay. Putting that back. What else can we do? Let's dick around with it a little bit. Hang on. Like, what about 20, 60, 90? It's not... What about... Maybe we need to go bigger. So what about 100, making a Yume fan level with this? I was talking about that earlier. Like, you could make you could use these very easily to make, like, a skybox or something for a game. Especially the one that we are using for like the fog pattern or something. Like, hang on. Let me bump this back up to, let's say 500 by 500. This one was the one that I originally came here for because it just looks... I really like this. What would the Rice Dream emulator look like? Yeah, no, it's so nice, right? It's like looking inside of a geode. But yeah, the Rice Dream emulator, huh? The thing is, I haven't played enough Dream emulators to know what mine would look like. If you ask me, like, what would the Rice Yume fan game look like, I could more easily respond to that. There would be 4 doors, one for me, one for Tool, one for the Sun, and one for the Rice Beast. And the effects would just be, I don't know, related to my various interests. I'm not sure. Maybe one of them just turns your head into mine. But you know, this is the one that I originally became interested in these things for. The only issue with this one is that because of the way that it's structured, it's very difficult to mirror it or tile it. I'm not sure. I don't know. Hang on. One for Pearl and Noise. False combines with 2 Pearl and Noises. How about like true? True. False. Maybe. Wait, it finished generating. Oh my god, you can barely see that. Oh, no, wait, there it goes. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. Let's put this thing up on the Jumbotron. Hang on, let's do this 2000 by 2000. Let's stop fucking around. This one usually takes a while to load because, especially when it's at like a larger size like this, I got a scary looking pop-up that says this page is slowing down Firefox. The good news is I'm not using Firefox for anything else, so my CPU is looking pretty frosty right about now. There we go. Look at that glorious web of goop. All right. We are playing around with this one. I'm still not sure how to. Okay, wait. I see the issue. If we just leave these random ones empty. Okay. It tends to gravitate towards darker colors. Could we maybe improve that by improving the amounts here? Not quite. Angle mode, degrees, create canvas. First of all, let's make the canvas a little bit smaller so that it loads faster. So let's say 200 by 200. Look at how teeny that is. That's adorable. All right. Start R is random, random, random. Start R, start G. Could we use, instead of RGB, HSV? So HSV and then random. For voluminosity, we could do it at minimum 100. Oops, hang on. Start H. Right, we need to replace everything that is like RGB with HSV. Okay, start R, GB. H, S, S, V, V. Are we cool yet? Missing this after last argument. Huh? Oh, did I accidentally get rid of a comma? Uh-oh. Oh, I see what I did. Why? Hang on. Why is it not letting me edit this? Because this should be letting me. Yeah, it's like doing something like insert. Hang on. Hang on. Let me refresh the page. I think instead of messing around with that, it might be more productive to mess around with the numbers up here. There we go. This is kind of what I wanted. More kind of brighter colors. I do wish there was a way to make the colors more varied, though. Background equals start R plus. Hang on. If we remove these. Doesn't seem to have much of an effect on the finished product. Fill, random plus 90. Let's bump this up to 150. What does that do? Does introduce some more variety into it, it feels like. I did forget to add the... Hang on. Space, let's save button. Okay, here we go. And then down here, function save canvas or save PNG as save my canvas.png. At the very least, I've kind of nailed being able to make it save as PNG. If nothing else, we have that going for us. And what the hell? Let's make it nice and big. So let's do 2000 by 2000. I don't know how long this one's going to take to render. Did not take long at all, but I'm not very happy with the colors, so let's just keep playing around with those. I like this one because it has the most variety in colors, it feels like. If we up the contrast on this and then hit it with a gradient map, we'll be able to get quite far, it feels like. What's fascinating is that the ones that I used to save, right, like the ones that were with this one here were much heavier. Like this one is 2.5 megabytes. But the ones that were over here, this one was 358 kilobytes. That is such a stark difference. It's like a quarter of the file size. Or actually, it's a little bit under a tenth of the file size, isn't it? Or a little bit over a tenth of the file size. And that makes sense, though, because these are just very clean lines, very clean colors. But for the other one, it's very much... You know, you look in here and it's like 5 different colors in just this little nook here. It must have more complicated information. Ooh, okay. I do feel like this does require a certain degree of patience. Because especially when it comes to changing every little figure one by one. Oh, this one kind of fucks though. I don't know why, but I really like this one. Okay, what if we did y negative 100 plus y 100? Huh, kind of a weird pattern there in the middle. Okay. What about 300 here and 30 here? Oh, that one's kind of cool though. I especially like how it's being separated by lines. The new Houndstooth. Yep. I know that's right. This is kind of interesting too. When I keep hitting the back button on my browser here. Hang on. Oh, that's so weird. There's still an element of randomness to it though, because if I keep re-rendering it, it eventually starts doing stuff like this. This looks like some kind of insane, complicated stitching pattern from a foreign culture. I'm a fan though. But yeah, I think this is about as far as we're gonna get. Especially considering this one here. So, this is a website that I originally, again, this is the website that I used to, as reference. And check out what this one does. Or actually, hang on, it's gonna take a minute to load, but it's pretty spectacular because I remember that it moves around in a very fascinating way. Maybe we should just leave the stove on in this page and come back later. It is taking a while to load. Let's get a few more seconds. Sand art-esque. That's true as well. Oh, no, there it goes. Or I guess it's just randomly generating ones. That works also. No, wait, it's cycling through similar ones. Like, look at the one here. If we go a couple... Yeah, no, this is just 2 pictures that you can cycle between. Alright, that's not particularly... That's not much to look at, honestly. Alright, let's go back to here. This should return it to normal. Right, this is that cross pattern that he was talking about. What was I thinking about? Right, what about the ones on the bottom here? What if we mess with the zeros on this one? Again with the vertical lines. What if we... Hang on. 0 and a 0 here. This looks so odd. Okay, let's play around with this one. What was this one again? Right, this is the quilting pattern using the ASCII characters. Right, but this one was the one that I was most interested in. Background 255. Random 260. Alright, here we go. Random 100. Okay, then we bump it up to 150. That okay, if I understand my color theory right, that should bring us closer to either... Okay, it's kind of like a lime green now. It should bring us closer to blue or closer to yellow or orange. Okay, that means that it's going color-wise on the color wheel. So if we bump this up to 250, that should almost be like going towards purple now, right? Back to green? No, that's purple. Okay, but am I losing my touch? What? Fuck it, 360. That's just red. that is just pure red. Fuck me, that's pretty funny actually. I don't know. I wish there was a way to increase the contrast between some of these. Back to it being basically all red. I think it was originally 150, right? Yeah, something like that. Rest plus 100. J size. Function save art. I'm taking this one, I think. Okay, I think that was basically all the ones that we had to play around with. I don't really know what else I want to do with these. I guess I could go check out the ASCII characters that he used for these. Or maybe not. Actually, hang on. So random... Okay, column, floor, random 5. Okay, if we reduce this to 3, does that mean there will be fewer columns? Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's make this 2. And let's also make this 2. It's very chaotic, isn't it? Key S. Oh, and that saves it to your... Okay, so if you... Okay, interesting. If you just press... Because of this one, because if you just press S, that'll save it to your canvas automatically. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, 0.7 and 0.12. Okay, so what if we did 0.1? Uy, que asco. I'm still saving that, though. That's kind of rad. Is there no way to change the color? Hang on. Which one did I save? Okay, this. I think I messed around with this one. This one was 0.1. What was it before? 0.7, right? Okay, so what if I do 0.1, 0.3 or 0.4 actually? Sure, why not? 0.4. I also really like this one. I actually like this one the best because it's almost like a. It really does remind me of a quilt quite a bit. Okay, so that's at 4. Well, let's mess around with a couple of other of these. C equals random. What if we bump this one up? What if we do it 9? Ooh, I like that. Background 0. What does that do? So if we do background 100. Oh, that's a background color on that. I see. So if we do 360, which I think is supposed to be the cap, does that make it pure white? Okay. It doesn't stand out as much as when it's on the... Hang on. Is there a way to affect the color equals red, yellow, orange, purple? Oh, it's because I reduced the randomness of these. Hang on. So if we do 7... and 7, for example, that should provide a much more diverse range of color. Argument is not a valid color representation. Occurred inside the PJ5 library on line 12. If not stated otherwise, it might be argument passed to the stroke. Okay, so maybe we go smaller. So what about 5 and 5? What does that do? Hey, okay, now we can also see that it's red, yellow, orange, green, purple. Okay, and then we go random equals 4. Okay, yeah, and that makes it more complete again. Color mode. What do we do 150? 150, 150, 150. I'm actually kind of liking it with more muted colors. I think the other one was a little bit hard on the eyes. Color start equals 100. Okay, that doesn't really do much. If we go 200, it'll get even more muted, right? So what if we do 25 for each of these? That's gonna be mega bright, right? Okay, yeah. That hurts to look at a little bit. $150, $300. How about this? Hey, okay, that has returned to being a more pleasant expression of color. Yeah, that one is much less insane compared to some of the other ones, although it is kind of universally... Oh no, there we go, back to the monochrome green. I don't know, this one's so much more pleasant compared to like pure green. That being said, I feel like I've learned a lot today, or rather, I've gained a lot today. I don't know how much more I can do about this, but it was fun to just play around with these, you know, for a quick little jaunt around. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have much more to do. You're not supposed to see this part. Hang on. That one's just for me. Is there anybody streaming right now? Actually, hang on. Might be fun to just say hi to someone if anybody is live. They are not. Alrighty. Well, that is it for today. I will catch you all later. See you tomorrow for more Bloodstained. Bye.